The Young and the Restless. Spoilers. WD, the 12th of August, 2026. Welcome back to our channel, Soap Fans. Today is a fantastic day to dive into the latest drama from Genoa City, and we have so much to unpack from the newest episode. Let's get right into it. I literally cannot even process what I just watched. I am still shaking. I am sitting here staring at my screen, trying to figure out if the writers of The Young and the Restless are actively trying to destroy my sanity, because that August 10th episode was a psychological horror movie. I can't believe they did that to Nick Newman. I just can't. We need to talk about this because I feel like I am losing my mind. Am I the only one who felt physically sick watching Nick go through that drug-induced nightmare? Because let me tell you, I have been watching this show for years and years, and I have seen some dark storylines, but this is on a completely different level of emotional devastation. I am typing this out because I need to vent to people who actually understand the history of these characters and why this episode was so incredibly triggering and brilliant all at the same time. And let us just start with the sheer audacity of the opening scene. Nick is in that dingy, depressing motel room, absolutely high out of his mind. He reaches into his pocket and realizes he only has 4 packets of drugs left. 4. The desperation on Joshua Morrow's face was so raw, it actually made me uncomfortable. And then his phone lights up. Texts from Sharon, texts from Victoria, the 2 women who have always been his anchors, his moral compasses, reaching out to him in the dark. And what does he do? He ignores them. He just ignores them and lies down to let the drugs take over. That right there is the reality of addiction. And it hurts so much to see our golden boy, the Newman, who was supposed to be the good one, sinking this low. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened when he fell asleep. Because, of course, his subconscious could not just give him a peaceful rest. No, his drug-addled brain decides to conjure up the absolute worst entity to ever walk the streets of Genoa City, Matt Clark. I cannot believe Matt Clark was his tour guide in this nightmare. Think about the history here. Matt has terrorized the Newmans for decades. He has done unspeakable things, especially to Sharon, and he is the literal embodiment of Nick's worst fears and failures. Having Matt be the one to wake him up in the dream, telling him that he is finally free to be the real Nick Newman, the rich boy, was such a twisted psychological blow. Nick has spent his entire life trying to prove he is more than just Victor Newman's entitled son, and Matt is right there, feeding on his deepest insecurities like a parasite. So Matt takes his keys, and they go for a drive, and the dialogue in this car scene, brutal. Matt telling Nick that his family always expected too much of him, while flashbacks of Nick's past flash across the screen. It felt like a eulogy for the man Nick used to be. Matt claiming that thanks to him, Nick can finally step into the freedom he always wanted. But what kind of freedom is this? It is the freedom of having nothing left to lose, because you have already destroyed everything you ever loved. I was practically yelling at the TV for Nick to wake up, but the nightmare was only just beginning. And then they arrive at the shadow room. Okay, wait, I need to take a breath because this scene absolutely broke me. They walk into the club, and Nick sees Sharon, but she is not the beautiful, strong, resilient Sharon we know. She is passed out on a table, completely high. My heart actually stopped beating for a second. Sharon is the love of Nick's life, arguably. They share so much history, so much trauma, and Nick has always viewed himself as her protector, especially when she has struggled with her bipolar disorder. To see his worst nightmare play out, where he is the reason she falls into addiction, is devastating. He convinced her to take the pills in this dream. He dragged her down with him. But it gets worse because Mariah is there telling him to stay away from her mother. And Nick is trying to defend himself, saying he tried. And then Mariah says the words that completely shattered my soul. I am not Mariah. I am Cassie. Oh my God. Cassie Newman. I have been watching since the early 2000s, and Cassie's death in 2005 is still the most heartbreaking thing this show has ever done. Having Mariah suddenly shift into Cassie, demanding to know if her death meant nothing, asking Nick who he has become, that was pure psychological torture. Nick's guilt over Cassie's death has never fully gone away. It is the foundational trauma of his adult life, and his drug-soaked brain is using his dead daughter to punish him for his weakness. When Cassie asked him if her death meant nothing to him, I actually started crying. I know some people are loving this gritty, dark storyline, but personally, it is almost too hard to watch. It is just so heavy. So Nick grabs Sharon and gets her out of the club. He is driving down this dark, creepy road, desperately trying to save her, trying to be the hero he always thought he was. And then, out of nowhere, Adam is in the back seat with a rope. He just starts choking Nick from behind. I mean, talk about a heavy-handed metaphor, but it works so perfectly. Adam has always been the thorn in Nick's side, always metaphorically at his throat, trying to take his place, trying to take his company, trying to take his life. The physical strangulation leading to a violent car crash perfectly encapsulates their entire toxic brotherhood. They are always crashing because they cannot stop fighting, and Adam is always the monster lurking in Nick's rearview mirror. But you guys, it doesn't stop there. I wish it stopped there. Nick wakes up from the crash, and suddenly he is at the Newman Ranch. And this scene, this was the darkest thing The Young and the Restless has done in years. Adam and Chelsea are there, and they are absolutely unhinged with rage. Nick is confused, asking what he did, and Chelsea screams, "You killed our son!" I literally paused my television. I could not breathe. Little Connor found Nick's drug stash, took some of the drugs, and died. I am so glad this was just a dream. Can you even imagine if the writers actually went there and killed off Connor because of Nick's addiction? I would riot. I would literally stop watching the show forever. But as a nightmare, it is the most effective wake-up call ever written. Nick loves kids. He is a father first and foremost. The idea that his carelessness, his addiction, could kill an innocent child, especially his brother's child, is the ultimate destruction of Nick's soul. The guilt on his face was unbearable. And then Chelsea and Adam drop the final hammer. They tell him they are taking Christian away to foster care. Christian, the boy Nick raised as his own, who is biologically Adam's. The layers of history and trauma here are insane. Nick fought so hard for Christian. His entire identity is built on being a good protective father. If you take his children away, if you tell him he is a danger to them, he has nothing. He is nothing. It is his absolute worst fear, manifested in the most brutal way possible. So he runs, because that is what addicts do, right? He runs away from the pain and finds himself back at the shadow room, and this is where the hypocrisy of the Newman family is put on full display. Nick is looking for his dealer, desperate for a fix to make the pain of Connor and Christian go away. But instead of his dealer, he finds Nikki, his mother, and she just swats his hand away. She looks at him with such disgust and tells him he is breaking her heart. She says he is nothing but a liar now, that all he cares about are drugs, and that she is completely ashamed of him. And then Victor chimes in. Of course, Victor is there, and she has every right to be ashamed. You are a disgrace. I mean, Victor calls everyone a disgrace on days ending in Y, but hearing it from his father in this context just crushes Nick. But the kicker, the absolute kicker that made me want to throw my remote at the screen, Nikki tells Nick that she and Victor are separated again because Victor blames her for how Nick turned out. The emotional manipulation is off the charts. And then Nikki walks over to the bar, orders a double vodka, and downs it. She literally looks at her son and says, "If it is good enough for you, then it is good enough for me." Excuse me? Are we serious right now? Nikki Newman, the woman who has fallen off the wagon more times than I can even count, the woman who has put this family through hell with her own alcoholism, is blaming her relapse on her son's addiction in his own nightmare? I mean, I know it is just Nick's subconscious punishing him, but it is so deeply rooted in the toxic reality of how this family operates. The pressure to be perfect, the immediate blame game, the lack of actual grace or support when things get ugly. Nick's brain knows exactly how hypocritical and demanding his parents are, and it uses them to tear him down to his absolute lowest point. Victor telling him he destroyed the whole family is the exact echo of everything Nick has ever feared about himself. And then the dream shifts one last time. Nick is back in the hotel room, and Victoria is there. Victoria, the golden child, the one who always manages to keep it together while Nick falls apart. She looks at him with such pity and disappointment, telling him that he is hiding from being the hero of the family. And Nick just breaks. He is crying, saying he doesn't want to be an addict. He doesn't want to let her down. He just wants his life back. Joshua Morrow deserves an Emmy for this performance, period. The raw emotion, the absolute desperation in his voice. You could feel his pain vibrating through the screen. He is so trapped in this cycle, and he knows it, but the drugs have completely hijacked his brain. And then, finally, he wakes up, for real this time, sweating, screaming, absolutely terrified in this dingy, depressing motel room. The nightmare is over, but the reality is just as bleak. He is alone. He is an addict. He is holding on to his last 4 packets of drugs. And then there is a knock on the door. Nick opens it, still panting and traumatized, and there stands a woman. Enter Marie Kirkland, Jade Harlow's debut. I was so excited to see her show up. She says she is in the room next door and heard him screaming and crying. At first, I'm thinking, okay, here is the angel. Here is the person who is going to pull Nick out of the darkness. Maybe she is a sponsor. Maybe she is just a good Samaritan who knows CPR and therapy. I was ready for a beautiful moment of human connection. But no, she looks at this broken, sweating, crying man who just woke up from a literal psychological hell. And she asks, "So, do you have anything to share?" She wants his drugs. I literally gasped out loud. I screamed at my television. What a twist. I mean, I cannot believe they ended the episode on that note. Is she an addict too? Is she just looking for a quick fix because she heard him and figured he was going through withdrawal or a bad trip? Or is this some kind of twisted test? I kind of think she might be at her own rock bottom, and seeing Nick might be the mirror they both desperately need. Or maybe, just maybe, she is going to drag him down even further. I am terrified. You guys, I am dreading what comes next, but I am also completely glued to my screen. If they make Nick share those last 4 packets of fentanyl with her, I am going to lose my mind. I know some people are saying this storyline is too dark for daytime, but personally, I think it is some of the bravest writing The Young and the Restless has done in a long time. It is not pretty. It is not glamorous. It is ugly, and it is scary, and it shows exactly how addiction destroys not just the person, but their entire perception of their family and their reality. But at the same time, they better not drag this out forever. Nick has suffered enough. He has lost Cassie. He has lost Sage. He has been through the ringer with Sharon and Phyllis. And now this. Give the man a break. What do you guys think Marie's going to do? Is she going to be Nick's saving grace because they hit rock bottom together? or is she the final weight that pulls him under? Because right now, Nick is standing on a razor's edge. He just lived through a dream where his addiction killed his nephew, destroyed his true love, and shattered his parents' marriage. If that is not enough to make him flush those last 4 packets down the motel toilet, then I honestly do not know what will. But knowing this show, he is going to hesitate. He is going to look at Marie, look at the packets, and we are going to be left screaming at our screens all over again tomorrow. I am so emotionally exhausted, but I cannot wait for the next episode. The acting, the writing, the history they brought up with Cassie and Christian, it was a masterclass in soap opera history. But seriously, writers, if you actually kill off Nick Newman, we are going to have a massive problem. Let's pray Marie is exactly the wake-up call he needs in the real world, because his dream world is entirely too dark to survive. Let's talk in the comments, because I need to know I am not the only one traumatized by Matt Clark driving that nightmare car